Hey, Pretty Girl Club. So today I want to do a deep dive analysis into pretty girl problems. So this video was actually inspired by this new content creator that I came across today. Let me pull her up. Her name is Pretty In Between. So be sure to follow her channel. She is a fantastic editor. She's got a lot of good content on there. But I wanted to dive deeper into pretty girl problems because one thing I've noticed is that when a person is not considered socially attractive, they have the tendency to invalidate our experiences. They want to validate your experience because they feel like, they've never had pretty privilege, they've never been bullied or targeted for their beauty. Oftentimes, these are people who did not grow up being deemed as attractive, or maybe they themselves were the person who used to bully the attractive girl and they're mad about getting exposed. By the way, if you're new to this channel talks about pretty privilege. We talk about a lot of the privileges that are experienced in the Black community in particular. So if you don't like talking about those things, or if you don't like that type of content, please unsubscribe right now, because anybody who comes in my comment section trying to invalidate our talking points will immediately be banned. But I have noticed that a lot of pretty women end up struggling with body dysmorphia when they're teenagers or when they get older. So body dysmorphia is when you do not have an accurate perception of your own body. So for example, maybe you think that your nose is like really huge when in reality it's just a normal nose. Maybe you think that you look totally different than what you actually look like. And the reason that I think a lot of pretty women struggle with this is because beauty is a form of social power. And so when you are beautiful, you become hyper visible. So because you are very visible, people who are jealous or people who are triggered by your beauty, they tend to call out your small flaws. So let's say you have big ears, people will call that out. Maybe you struggle with acne, people will instantly call that out. Have you ever noticed how nobody walks up to the ugliest girl in school and calls her out because she has a small blemish on her face? Nobody cares, right? Because if you're considered quote unquote ugly or mid, then for the most part, you're just kind of ignored, or maybe you just feel invisible. But if you are the hyper visible pretty girl, people will try to pinpoint your flaws. We see this happening with celebrities where people will zoom in when they have like cellulite on their legs and stuff. People will zoom in on their stomach if they gain weight or if they get wrinkles, and people will magnify it because beauty is pedestalized so much in our society to the point where if you were born pretty, or if you happen to level yourself up and become pretty, you are going to become hyper visible. So one of the downsides of that is people fixating on your flaws. Oftentimes what happens when a person is jealous is they will look at the object of their jealousy and they will immediately try to find flaws with that person. Also, when you are considered pretty, you are going to bring out other people's insecurities. So if that person is insecure about their stomach, they're probably going to start staring at the pretty girl's stomach, and they're going to stare at her stomach really, really hard because that's their insecurity. And so sometimes they may project that onto you. We also see this happening with celebrities all the time. People will say, oh, well, you're not that pretty because you have a big nose, or, oh, you're not that pretty because of your hair texture, or you're not as pretty as someone else. All of those things are just projections. Those things are humbling tactics. One of the reasons that a person would want to give you a humbling tactic is because in their mind, you are higher up than them socially. They view you as having more social power. They view you as being higher up in society. They perceive you as being treated better in society. And so they will go out of their way to mistreat you. I've seen this happen so many times when it comes to service jobs. So for some of you, maybe you work a service job, or maybe you are walking into a restaurant or something and people are randomly just rude to you, just for no reason. You just walked into the restaurant, you're minding your business, suddenly you're being yelled at, suddenly you're being screamed at, suddenly people are randomly cursing you out, or they're like calling you out because you did something wrong. I've also noticed this pattern in the workplace as well, where if you are considered very pretty and you get a new job at the office, the basic Betties who are jealous, they will try to hyper focus on every single one of your mistakes. It doesn't matter if it's your first day. They don't care, because if you are considered to be privileged, people have a hard time having compassion for people who are privileged because they feel like the things that you got in life were because of your privilege. And I'm not denying that, but I kind of feel like everybody has pros and cons to their life. And so instead of being mad at somebody for having pretty privilege, you could simply work on attaining pretty privilege for yourself. But a lot of people, they're not introspective enough to admit that to themselves. I've noticed that a lot of people struggle with self-awareness and they're not aware of what their own deepest desires are. I kind of have a theory that every woman wants to be beautiful, or she wants to be perceived as beautiful, or she wants her beauty to be appreciated. But I've noticed that some women, they try to play this self-righteous game like, oh, well, looks don't matter, and being pretty, it doesn't matter. Or they'll randomly try to say being pretty isn't everything. And it's like, you didn't even say being pretty was everything. You were simply living your life, and they're randomly bringing it up. And so that tells me that that person is actually projecting. They actually do think that being pretty is everything. And that's why they're randomly bringing it up like, oh, just so you know, being pretty is not everything. And have you ever noticed how a lot of pretty girls also get stereotyped as being shallow? Even if they're not shallow, they've never done anything to show that they're shallow. They've never done anything that points to them being superficial. They're just pretty. And suddenly you've got people doing all these stereotypes about them. I've noticed some of the common stereotypes against pretty girls are like that the pretty girl is dumb. So like I said, this happens in the workplace. People will try to call out your errors from day one. They'll try to make it like you don't understand how to do your job. So that's kind of the pretty dumb girl stereotype. Another stereotype that a lot of men will give against pretty girls is that you're a whore. I have never heard men stereotyping the ugliest girls as being whores. I have never seen it. Usually when men are accusing women of being whores, she's a girl who is very sexy, very beautiful. She has a lot of sex appeal and a nice body. So I've noticed that's another common stereotype against pretty women. For some women, this may happen in your family, your own mother, your own siblings or cousins. They accuse you of sleeping with people. Or maybe you're in college or high school and people randomly accuse you of sleeping with their boyfriends. They accuse you of flirting with the boss, flirting with the teacher. People will say that you slept your way to the top. I've noticed one of the other humbling tactics against pretty women is invalidating your success. It's too triggering for people to admit when you are both prettier than them, you're more disciplined than them, you're more talented than them, you're also smarter than them. That's too triggering. Most people are not going to ever admit that another person has that many advantages over them. And so on a subconscious level, a lot of people will have the mindset of, she may be prettier than me, but she's not smarter than me. She may be prettier than me, but she's not more spiritual than me. She's not holier than me. She's a Jezebel. She's a whore. She's satanic. She's demonic. She's a part of the Illuminati. That's why she got to where she is. So people will come up with all of these reasons as to why you're not talented, why you're not disciplined, why you're not hardworking, because they feel like you already have enough of an advantage over them simply by having beauty. And so they don't want to give you any more compliments. They don't want to admit any other things that you have going for you. And this actually puts a lot of pressure on pretty girls, because then pretty girls feel like, okay, well, now I have to work really hard in order to prove that I'm smart. Now I have to really be better than everyone in order to prove that I'm talented. And so that's one of the downsides of having pretty privilege. Another thing I've noticed is that you literally cannot be yourself. If you are pretty and introverted, suddenly you're a snob, suddenly you're stuck up, suddenly you don't speak to nobody, you're acting funny, you think you're too good to talk to people, you're ignoring people because you look down on them. And it's like, you can't even be pretty and be an introvert because people assume that you have a bad attitude. I've heard other people say that too, where it's like, oh, she has an attitude. And literally the girl does not have an attitude. She's literally just quiet. And so people start projecting all of these stereotypes onto you. I've noticed a lot of people will definitely stereotype you as being conceited. So you didn't do anything conceited. You didn't say anything conceited. You never even talked about your looks at all. But suddenly you're randomly conceited. And then if you ask the person, how am I conceited? How am I stuck up? What did I do? They will name things like, oh, well, you're just trying to dress up. You're trying to look cuter than everyone. And it's like, they're literally making everything into a random competition because in their mind, you're cuter than everyone. In their mind, you are dressing better than everyone. You are outshining everyone. And that's because they are subconsciously acknowledging your beauty, even if you're not acknowledging it within yourself. And so if you guys haven't watched my Pretty Girl Problem series or my Pretty Privilege series, be sure to watch all of those videos. I actually talk about how a lot of people will shame beautiful women out of using their beauty, because people will literally blame a woman's beauty for like why she got raped. People will blame a woman's beauty for why she was touched the wrong way, for why she was harassed. And especially if you come from a religious or a conservative background, beauty is very demonized. So it's almost as if you are pedestalized, yet also demonized at the same time. It's almost like being this beautiful trophy, yet you're also a villain at the same time. So what a lot of women end up doing is having body dysmorphia. So they associate their own beauty with being high risk. They associate their body and like their curves and stuff with being a walking target. And so it actually makes a lot of pretty women feel a lot of shame when it comes to their bodies. And especially if you were not allowed to wear miniskirts, maybe you weren't allowed to wear a bikini, maybe you couldn't wear push-up bras or like short shorts. So a lot of women actually end up carrying this shame into adulthood. And I've noticed that sometimes when people shame beautiful women, it usually comes from a place of jealousy, which is all rooted in being male-centered. And then misogyny is another one. So kind of like blaming the woman, victim blaming, like, oh, it was your fault that you got touched the wrong way as a child because you shouldn't have worn a bikini to the pool. And so that's another thing that contributes to pretty women having body dysmorphia, because they're attaching shame to their body, or they feel like their body parts stand out a lot more than they actually do. And then same thing with the hypervisibility. If you've got people randomly calling out your acne, calling out your nose, calling out that your ears are big or something like that, then suddenly it becomes an insecurity in you. And in reality, you're actually very beautiful, but people have just tried to nitpick you because they're so jealous of the position and the power that your beauty holds. And also, let's think about this for a second. If you have ever seen a person who is attractive, have you ever looked at that person and said, oh, nope, they have a pimple on their nose. Oh, no, now they're hideously ugly. Oh, sorry, that person is very ugly because their ears stick out just a little bit too much. So, no, they're ugly. In reality, small things like that don't actually matter very much. But when you are already pedestalized, or if the person views you as being kind of like this powerful, having all this social power, then they're going to try to chip away at little things that they think you might be insecure about. So I've talked about this a lot on this channel, how people will call you out if you're pretty. And let's say you are mixed race or something and you're black and you happen to have a dark skin tone. Suddenly people want to call out, well, you're dark skinned, as if being dark skinned takes away from your beauty. Or they want to call out if you have type 4 hair, like if your hair is 4C, they want to call it out as if your blackness takes away from your beauty. Sometimes people do this like when it comes to your race, your ethnicity, your skin tone. So they will try to call out whatever differences you have in order to ostracize you. I've noticed that another thing that can lead to body dysmorphia or insecurities when you're very pretty is people randomly trying to compare you to celebrities. This is extremely annoying to me. When people will compare you to someone who looks like you, or they will make comments like, oh, you're pretty, but you're not as pretty as Beyonce, or you're not as pretty as Aaliyah or Halle Berry or some other celebrity. And so they want you to feel taken down a notch. So that is actually called negging. And this is actually very common when it comes to men's interactions with pretty women. They don't want to validate that woman because they feel like society is already validating her. She's probably getting hit on all the time. She's probably getting modeling contracts or brand deals or something. She probably has all these guys in her DMs. And so I want to be the one guy who doesn't compliment her. And this actually happens very commonly with women who are considered pretty. If a guy knows that he can't have her, or if he feels threatened by her social power, aka her beauty, then he will try to say, oh, she's cute, but she doesn't have any ass though. Oh yeah, she's cute, but I don't like that haircut. Oh yeah, she's pretty, but she wears too much makeup. So that is actually a form of negging. And that also can contribute to a pretty woman having body dysmorphia, because they're like, oh wait, I'm wearing too much makeup, but I was only wearing lip gloss. So now I have to like wear no makeup at all. And I've also noticed that when you are considered the pretty girl, people love to move the goalpost for beauty so that you can't receive a compliment. So they'll be like, oh, you know what? You're too short. The beauty standard is actually being tall, like a runway model. So yeah, you're only 5'1", so you're actually not that pretty. And then, the next day somebody else says, oh no, you're actually too tall. The beauty standard is being short. So I've noticed a lot of people online in particular, they will try to utilize beauty trends against you and make it as if you're never enough. People wonder why celebrities who are already beautiful, why they go out of their way to get a bunch of surgeries and stuff, even if their faces were already pretty from the beginning. It's because people will nitpick you when you're pretty. They will find the tiniest thing about you and they'll say, oh, you have thin lips. Oh, your cheekbones aren't really that high. They're not very prominent. So people will name such tiny things and they'll do it thousands of times, or like thousands of people will be doing it, to the point where that pretty girl may even start to believe, oh wow, I must not be that pretty. Maybe I don't have nice cheekbones. Maybe I should get a bunch of filler. And so that's one of the common reasons why you see a lot of pretty women who are in the spotlight, like celebrities and stuff, why you see them getting so many different surgeries. But this channel supports dark femininity, so let's talk about some ways that you can get revenge on haters if they are constantly hating on your beauty. And by the way, I've seen lots of pretty girls doing these things in real life. So step one is to take back your power. Take back your ownership over your own beauty. My beauty belongs to me. My body belongs to me. My face belongs to me. My hair belongs to me. I can do whatever I want with it. Nobody gets to police what I do with my body. So that is one of the main ways you can begin to take back your self-esteem and enjoy your pretty privilege, because everybody in this world has different privileges and different disadvantages. And guess what? Other people are out there right now enjoying their privileges. They're enjoying their wealth. They're enjoying their status in life. They're enjoying the fact that they were born rich. So why is it that suddenly with pretty privilege, you're not allowed to enjoy it? No, you have the right to take back power and ownership over your own beauty, as opposed to constantly letting other people live vicariously through you or feel like they get to tell you what you need to do with your skin. They get to tell you what you have to do with your acne. No, that's my body. It's my acne. I can choose to do what I want with it. I can choose to put on a face mask, or I can choose to let it heal naturally. My body, it's my choice. It's my business, not yours. Another way that you can take back your beauty and take ownership over it is by flaunting it even more. You know those girls that they're super jealous of the pretty girl, they always try to put her down, they always try to put down her self-esteem because they don't want her to walk in this world with confidence. One of the main ways that you can get revenge is by choosing to be confident anyway. You don't have to go start a confrontation with those girls. You don't have to go and argue back and forth. You can simply enjoy your beauty even more. You can continue to dress up. Like if somebody says, I don't like it when you wear red lipstick. Okay, well, guess what, bitch? Now I'm wearing red lipstick all week. You can begin to dress yourself up even more, switching up your hairstyles even more. You don't even have to respond to these people who feel like they're beneath you. I mean, it's obvious that they already feel that they're beneath you if they feel the need to randomly tear you down. So you can just keep being pretty, keep being gorgeous, and let their envy eat them alive. Let their envy torment them. Their envy that they feel towards you, it's already tormenting them enough. They already can't sleep at night because they're thinking about your beauty. They can't even focus during class because they're thinking about your hairstyle, your makeup. So for me, I don't even respond. I let people talk their shit and then I just move on and I continue to enjoy my own beauty, because a person who is envious, they already feel inferior. They're already stressed out. They're already angry. So let them continue to wallow in their stress. Let them wallow in their anger. Because one thing I've noticed is that for a lot of pretty women, we end up getting trained to be people pleasers. People want to train you to be a doormat. They want to train you to appease others, or out of your own trauma, you have to, you feel like you have to go out of your way to be nice because you're so scared of people being jealous of you, because you have been beaten up in the past, or you have had your hair pulled, you've had relaxer put in your shampoo, you've had people cutting up your clothes and putting bleach in your suitcase and doing all of these things, throwing away your makeup. You've already had a lot of traumas around your own beauty. And so for a lot of women, you may feel the need to overcompensate and be extra nice so that you can kind of ward off some of that jealousy, but it never works. It's never enough, because even if you are super nice, the jealous girls are just going to use that as more ammo to treat you like a doormat and to just walk all over you or treat you like their bitch or something, because they feel like you are giving them power. I've also noticed another humbling tactic that people use against pretty women is public humiliation. So these are people who yell at you in the office. These are people who randomly call out that you have a big forehead, or like they make it a point to do it in front of others. Kind of like that toxic friend where as soon as there are men in the room, she purposely wants to insult you or call out when you do something bad, or she wants to like embarrass you. And it's all stemming from that jealousy of your beauty. She's jealous of the social power that comes with your beauty. I've also noticed a trend online where a lot of people, they're pulling up pictures of like very pretty rappers and stuff, or, pretty celebrity girls, and then they're like humbling them basically, or announcing in front of thousands of people on their YouTube channels that these women are mediocre, that they're not that pretty, or that they're not cute. And what's the reason for doing that? Like, let's think about this logically here for a moment. What is the reason that you would announce in front of thousands of people on the internet that you find someone ugly? You're doing that because you don't like that they have social power. You don't like that others view them as beautiful. And so you're hoping to convince others to stop viewing them as beautiful. You're hoping to convince others that this person does not deserve pretty privilege. And another thing that I've noticed is that the same people who shame others for having pretty privilege, or they lack empathy for those who have pretty privilege, those same people would love to trade places with them if they could. It's similar to how people view those who are skinny. Like, let's say you have thin privilege and a person who's obese, they want to talk crap about people who are thin. But oftentimes those obese people, if they could have a perfect body tomorrow, they would. And so this is how I know that a lot of this stuff stems from jealousy. Another sign of jealousy is if someone tries to imitate you, like extreme imitation. I understand if you're just inspired by someone's style or something, but like extreme imitation, and then if that person is also talking bad about you behind your back. So I've seen this happen so many times where people will pick on the pretty girl. They'll say, "Oh, she's wearing too much makeup. I don't like that lipstick on her." And then the next day, that same girl will wear more makeup and then she will wear lipstick. Or they'll say, "Oh, crop tops are not even that cute. Like, why is Meredith wearing that crop top?" Then the next day, that same girl goes and wears a crop top. So I've noticed that jealous people, usually they have a combination of imitating you, but they also talk crap about you for that very same thing. Another sign of jealousy is when they belittle your success. So let's say somebody compliments your beauty, or they say, "Oh, you look really cute," or "I like your purse." These are the people who they will call out, "Oh, that purse is fake," or like, "That's a fake designer bag," or "That job that she got, it's not even that good. She doesn't even make that much money." These people are trying to belittle you in public because they don't like the social power that you already have that comes with your beauty. I've also noticed a pattern where some women, they purposely don't want to be friends with you because they're threatened by your beauty. They're threatened by your social power. Those types of girls that have the mindset of there can only be one, like there can only be one pretty girl in the group. There can only be one queen bee. I call it the queen bee syndrome. So they don't want anyone in the group who gets the same amount of attention as them or more attention than them. And so I've noticed that sometimes these women will be very catty with you. They will just out of nowhere, like from the first day they meet you, they will try to exclude you from conversations, or they will purposely like not want to hang out with you because they don't like that you are gaining attention, or they will come up with some trivial reason as to why they don't like you. Like, "Oh, I don't like how she talks." Or they'll be like, "She was looking at me funny. She didn't speak to me. She didn't say hi to me yesterday." But one of the ways you can get revenge on these types of people is just by continuing to be happy and continuing to live your best life. I've noticed that one thing an envious person can't stand is when you are consistently leveling up, when you have this unstoppable, unshakable confidence. Jealous people can't stand that. And so that is a great form of revenge instead of like stooping to their level and having to engage back and forth with them. Because I've also noticed that, let's say people are bullying you as the pretty girl, they can bully you all day long, but then as soon as you respond, then you are the bad guy because you have more power in society. In their eyes, they view you as having more power. They view you as being higher up on the social hierarchy. And so you're not allowed to respond. In my opinion, that's actually proof that they pedestalize you because they feel like your words are more powerful than that person's words. And it really is true because The people who are envying you, they do feel like you're more powerful than them. That's why they envy you. That's why they are mad that you're beautiful, because they know that beauty is a form of social power. Nobody cares when the quote unquote ugly girl ignores them, but suddenly all the guys are mad when the pretty girl ignores them. Suddenly, guys are super angry and punching women in the face if the pretty girl ignores them. And I've noticed that's because people associate beauty with social power. And so anything you do is going to be way more hurtful in their eyes, is going to be way more powerful in their eyes. So this is why when the pretty girl responds, like let's say someone insults you and then you insult them back, everybody's mad at the pretty girl because your insult was way more powerful than the quote unquote ugly girl. Some girls will still like fight back though. So, I mean, I'm not against that. Here on the Exoticals United channel, I support dark femininity. So I say do whatever you have to do what makes you feel the best. I know people are going to say, you should just be nice to everyone and just forgive everyone. Yeah, that works in a utopian society, but we don't live in a utopian society. We live in a place where people do messed up things and some people refuse to be bullied. And so you have the right to stand up for yourself, even if you are the pretty girl. But success is another great form of revenge. Just continuing to go along the path that you want to go on, and also making other friends. Because I've noticed that like people will try to isolate a girl if she's quote unquote pretty, but if you make friends with other girls, then suddenly whoever you're friends with, you guys become the new popular group. Has anybody else noticed that? This could be in the office, this could be in a high school or in a college, and it's like one group of girls will exclude you, and then when you see, okay, they're excluding me, let me go make friends with other girls, then suddenly you guys are all the mean girls for like making friends. It reminds me of this YouTube channel. People told us, get out of unambiguous dark-skinned black women's YouTube channels, get out of their spaces, create our own spaces, talk about our own issues on our own YouTube channels. Then once we do that, they come over here and get mad and say that we're being mean girls. So I've noticed that whenever people perceive you as having more social power than them, they're going to keep following you anyway. They're always going to keep running back. They're going to keep watching your every move. They're going to keep wishing for your downfall. But let them be eaten alive by their own envy. Let them live in the cognitive dissonance of pretending they're not jealous when they actually are. On this YouTube channel, I talk a lot about how negative emotions, so that would include envy. Negative emotions actually affect your physical health, they affect your mental health. And so if a person is envious of you, just let them continue to be envious, because that person is only harming themselves by harboring all of those negative emotions. They're harming themselves by harboring those negative thoughts. But when I was talking about how a lot of pretty girls end up struggling with almost like this body dysmorphia just means you have a distorted body image where you don't have an accurate view of your own body. So I talk a lot about skin tone in the Black community. I've noticed that people love to do this with light-skinned Black women. They love to try to convince you that you have a chocolate skin tone. Meanwhile, your skin tone is caramel, or it's something way lighter, or it's like beige or something. And so that is actually a form of body dysmorphia, in my opinion, because you think your actual skin color is way darker than what it actually is because other people are trying to gaslight you into that. And so one of the ways that I have kind of overcome body image issues is by taking ownership over my own body. I get to decide what nickname to call my skin tone. I get to decide what type of beauty I want to have. I get to decide how beautiful I think I am. And then for the people that say, oh, you're not a 10, you're a 6, you shouldn't have that much confidence. It's like, who are you to tell me how confident I get to be? You don't get to determine my self-image. You don't get to control how I see myself. I've noticed that a lot of people use humbling tactics against pretty women because they're hoping that you get your self-esteem externally. And so if you do get your self-esteem only from the external, they know that when they put you down, that it's going to lower your self-esteem. And so one of the ways to shield against that is to not just get your self-esteem externally. It's to also validate yourself. In another video, I talked about having multiple streams of validation. I talked about micro-validation. Be sure to watch those videos if you haven't already. But what do you ladies think? Have you ever been gaslit for being pretty? Have you ever had almost like this body dysmorphia where maybe you thought you were way fatter than you actually were? Maybe you thought that you looked completely different than what you really look like. Maybe you got older and then you look back at your old pictures from when you were in your 20s or something and then you realized how beautiful you actually were. What do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.